Are flashbacks that you get with PTSD, like what you have when you have a PTSD crisis, are they permanent or do they go away? So if you've been around me for a while, you realize I haven't done videos on PTSD symptoms for a while, a long time. But this question I get so often that I really want to address it, right? Because I've been told that symptoms are permanent, and I'm glad I didn't believe it because it didn't turn out to be permanent for me, right? And this might be a little bit triggering or a little bit upsetting for you to hear that in this moment, but I'm just asking, can you just be open for the possibility that things can shift, right? Because flashbacks, let's be honest, they are very debilitating, destabilizing, I don't even have the right words, they're horrible, right, to have. They're so disorienting, like this, you forget your age and where you are and everything, right? It's just so, it's really reliving something that happened in the past. Well, in this moment, like at the time I'm doing this video right now, I haven't had flashbacks for many years. I haven't had that. For me, even trying to think of one of the most prominent incidences, like I had lots of abuse, lots of different things, but the ones that I've perhaps talked most about in therapy, if I really go back in and try really hard to think about what happened, even then I could not produce the same as a flashback. It no longer has that grip on me. I can't even fully remember that. You know, perhaps for you too, you or perhaps you're still in the phase where when you have flashbacks and you remember the words people were saying, the smells, the sounds, you know, it's so vivid, it's so real, it really feels like it is happening in this moment. I can no longer come up with that. I can no longer remember what they are saying. I'm not even interested in it anymore. And even if I try really, really hard to think about it, it no longer brings up the same emotional intensity of terror or fear or whatever it was in that moment, right, that I experienced. I can no longer produce it in the same way. So to me, flashbacks isn't something that is, I'm glad I never believed this is a permanent thing, and it isn't. It does not exist for me anymore. But there was a lot of that went into this, and that mostly for me, thinking back or reflecting, it has to really get to know my body. That's one, like really reading the sensations and my thoughts that I generate about certain things, whatever they are, right? To constantly check in with myself throughout the day. What is happening for me? How do I feel? Am I getting into this really it's not there's hypervigilant states, but there were times where I just kind of really in a rushed mode, right? I wasn't even really thinking, I didn't really notice what's going on. That for me, the rushed mode had certain feelings, and I knew when I was in that mode, I'm very dysregulated, right? I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it is when you're eating, right? There was another sign of mine when I was like going through a whole block of chocolate in no time and didn't even realize that I was eating it. Things like that. That is when I'm not fully, I'm not connected with my body. I don't know what's going on with my thoughts. There is that disjointment. It always felt like I was ripped apart into pieces, right? When I got a sense of that, that's what I had to learn. It's like to catch that. To now, I just notice I am so in tune with my body that dysregulation doesn't, it's not even a thing. I don't think I can call it dysregulation anymore, right? Because I know for a long time, I even believe because I have PTSD, I'm easily dysregulated, right? Even if I don't have flashbacks, but small things can just throw me, right? In things like that. And that was my truth, right? I'm not saying that this didn't happen or wasn't like this for me. That was my truth. But I need to bring it to this very moment. Do I want this to stay my truth? Right? because I had thoughts and stories, and there were actually beliefs that I thought that I am kind of ruined, right? That all that trauma just ruined the way my brain is wired, the chemicals that my body produces, and it's not happening. It cannot be restored. Right? For a long time I thought that. I really believed that. And I treated my body that way. I hated my body. Right? It went along with it. So not only did I hate my body, I actually worked against my body. It didn't stand a chance to actually restore some harmony or balance or any of that, because I worked against it, right? I abused my own body, the way I was eating, the way I was, the things that I was drinking, you know, so much coffee and energy drinks and chocolates, and I fueled that in a way because I believed that I'm gone, right? So I had to kind of switch that. And one of my mantras for a long time, I was saying that I loved, and I still use at times, you know, is that every day in every way, my body is getting healthier and healthier. My body is brilliant. My body is, it's magnificent. It has all the ability, all bodies, all human beings, all bodies have that. They have feedback loops and things in place that really help us restore balance if you give our body the chance, right? If you give it that peace, that quiet kind of space and the right nutrients and things like that, and we support it, right? I got to give it some kindness, some gentleness, right? Not the hate. So if I can bring that kind of energy to it, and I'm trusting that my body has what it takes to restore balance. Every day in every way, my body is getting healthier and healthier, right? So there was just, I mean, that was the most basic. I worked on that for many years, and I help my clients with that as well, and I still use small aspects today in my day-to-day life, right? As I was saying previously, this is getting really accurate here. I'm actually selling off all my things, or not all, I should say, perhaps about 80% of my belongings I am selling off or giving away at the moment, so it's getting rather empty here. But I could have done this all in one big hit, but I realized that when I put big things or lots of things away out of the house, there was a constriction, there was a tension. It didn't feel right? So I realized, oh no, this isn't something that I want to do in a rushing kind of way. I am doing this for myself because I felt that for years that this needs to happen. This isn't some intellectual thing or something because I read a book about decluttering that I want to do this, but I think it's going to help. No, there's an inner knowing that this needs to happen, but it's a process with everything, right? If there is something that I try to give away and there is that tension there, I get really curious. What kind of beliefs do I have around these objects? Why do I think this is so important? Why, you know, what are those attachments? What are the stories I'm telling myself about this, right? Sometimes it's things like they're not replaceable, or there's memories coming up with it and things like that. So I get really curious about that because I realize, oh, there's still some dust or something that I need to clear. And the minute you're bringing that belief or this story that you have into broad daylight, right, you expose it. When you expose it with kindness and gentleness, it just dissolves. I would have never thought it's that easy. As I said to you guys many times, you know, I've done tons of courses and degrees and qualifications in all the different healing modalities and complex stuff, right? And it can be so simple. I don't use any of the complex things today. Nothing. It's just that simple. Just bringing that belief, that thought into my conscious awareness. Oh, that is what I think about that thing. And why does this have to be my truth? Or why does this have to be the truth about this? Whatever it is, right? Just get curious. An open mind. the gentleness. I think that was perhaps one of the biggest components for me to shift out of this, having the flashbacks and that sense that I'm ruined, that hate and that tendency to work against my body, to realizing that if I change the mantra to every day in every way, my body is getting healthier, or whatever you would like to use there instead, right? Having that mantra and realizing that what can I add to this to help my body do this, right? How can I create an environment that is best for my body there, and bringing that gentleness there. And I think that is for so many trauma survivors, right? If you had a lot of physical abuse, sexual abuse, and verbal and emotional abuse, that it's really difficult to be gentle and kind with us, right? That loving kindness, that compassion, that care. Well, what if you gave it a try, right? Even just for a few minutes and see, right? Give yourself a few doses here and there of it. And, no one needs to know about it. It's just for you. You deserve to be free of suffering. You deserve to have a good life. You deserve to be free of flashbacks and all this PTSD symptoms and all this, it's like the psychological suffering, all this inner turmoil, that war I had inside of myself, right? I didn't need anyone else. I didn't need people. I didn't need to read. I didn't need a TV or anything. I could produce this in my mind with nothing. Yeah, that, right. So that's just about flashbacks. So if you do still have flashbacks, my heart goes out to you. But please know that this doesn't mean that you'll have them forever. It's a phase. It's part of the healing. It's a phase. Your body is still trying to free itself from all these really intense emotions are energy in motion, right? And when you're having an abuse, an assault or something like that, emotions, you can't express emotions, right? There's a shutdown, that everything's about survival. You have to suppress it. You have to push this energy down. And this energy, sometimes people feel like the energy is trapped in my body, right? You almost have that sensation there. Yeah, it is. Once we free it up and allow it to move and realize that right in this moment, I'm actually in a reasonably safe environment. It's okay. It's, I'm not in any immediate danger or threat right here. I can allow that emotion to just move through, because emotions actually, from a scientific point of view, they don't actually last much longer than 2 seconds. If an emotion lasts longer than 2 seconds, then it only is because with my thoughts, I create stories that keep that emotion going and going and going, and I add to it, right? So to just trust in your body that it has the capacity to heal itself, to move move the emotions in a safe way, right? And for a lot of us, initially it is very helpful to have a therapist or some professional, whoever you're working with, there with you to guide you a little bit, because I push it a little too hard initially, and then it just overwhelms your nervous system instead of actually letting it go. And that is okay too, right? We need to learn, okay, that was a little bit too much, so next time let me tone it down a little bit, so it can move without having that overwhelm kind of sensation to it. So it's a learning curve. It's like learning a skill in a way, right? You just get more and more in tune with yourself, and not making any of that right or wrong. We almost get taught in the whole psychology that overwhelm, this is wrong. Yeah, it is very, very uncomfortable. But if I after I feel overwhelmed, give myself a hard time that I felt overwhelmed and I should have known better and I shouldn't do this and that, right? So I'm adding to this instead of, oh, I was overwhelmed. Okay, let me bring some gentleness to myself first, right? And then see, oh, at what point could I have turned this around? Was there any moment where I was aware of it, where I could have paused it, right? To feel into that. Yeah. I leave it at that for today.